Thanks for listening to this Fox 10 digital exclusive testimony takeaways. I'm investigative reporter Justin Lum. If you follow the Chad Daybell murder trial, you're in the right place. We've seen around 60 witnesses take the stand and counting. We're closing in on the halfway point of this trial. It's supposed to last 8 to 10 weeks, and week 4 is complete. Daybell could face the death penalty if convicted of murdering his first wife, Tammy Daybell, and the 2 Arizona kids, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan, who were in the care of Chad's then girlfriend, Lori Vallow. Vallow was found guilty last year and sentenced to life in prison without parole. She is now married to Chad Daybell, her co-defendant. Now, we had some key witnesses testify this week, and on day 17, we finally got to see Melanie Palowski, Lori Vallow's niece, take the stand. Melanie made it clear that the alleged teachings of identifying light and dark spirits and the end of times all came from Chad Daybell, but she also learned a lot from her Aunt Lori, according to her testimony. She referred to Vallow and Daybell as mom and dad because, as we now know through this trial and in our coverage, the couple believed they were married in past lives, multiple past lives. And at one point, as James and Elena, they believed they had 7 kids, including Melanie and JJ, according to documents we obtained 4 years ago. Now, part of those teachings had to do with casting out dark spirits, and if a body became possessed by an extremely dark spirit, then that person would eventually become a zombie.
So that there was some type of darkness that you couldn't cast out. And so if this, that the Lord in his due time would have to take, that person would pass away because this darkness was too much or something like that.
And that is Melanie Palowski, the niece of Lori Vallow. It's also what we heard on recordings taken by Melanie's husband, Ian Palowski, that stood out. Ian testified as well, like he did in the Lori Vallow trial. Ian worked with police in December of 2019 for a short time, wearing a wire, and this recording takes place when law enforcement becomes suspicious of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell after an unsuccessful welfare check for 7-year-old JJ. And at this point in time, it's believed that the couple is newly married and in Hawaii. Watch how Melanie takes instructions from Chad Daybell in this recorded conversation.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna keep going and going. What could they possibly do?
Well, he says he's not gonna stop until, until they get what they want. So I don't know. There's some.
So you need to get out of that complex.
Okay.
Not rush out of there, but. They're not gonna leave you alone. I could sense the network pretty deep, and they're gonna see you as the target since you're the only one that they really can find at the moment. For your own sake, for your own sanity, you bet.
Okay.
We know you were left there, and it worked for 2 months for us as we planned and got together, and you found Ian, and now a different phase of your life has begun.
So his kids are in Rexburg and Natalie,
I know. You don't have to move super far away.
just a different city.
Yeah. Madison County, probably.
Well, it's in Rexburg.
I'm not saying you got to decide tonight. The sex complex went from a blessed place to a cursed place due to the
Yeah.
wickedness of the police.
No, we did not expect the police to be that wicked.
Well, and if it is just gonna be a couple weeks, like we could do an Airbnb and just stay in Idaho Falls somewhere. I mean, Ian works there. And that's close enough to where we could go pick up the kids and they wouldn't even know that we're not in Rexburg. But do you feel like a whole physical change of address and moving everything to a new place is what will be best?
know it's pain. I think they're not gonna leave you alone, so you're out of that city.
Like the Saints in Missouri, I just keep moving and I can't find a safe place.
Maybe. Even sugar, even like, you know.
So how do you get Aramitio to stop? Cause he's not gonna stop. He's so like raged with this whole thing. He was just pacing, like yelling at me, like he's like, I'm not gonna stop for anything. And how do you resolve that, I guess?
You get out of it. Wait,
Okay.
he's not going anywhere. It's like the standard story where the wicked stay in one place and the righteous flee. In this case, it's not a whole community, it's you. You went in, fleeing out of the way of darkness. Like Lehi had to leave Jerusalem. I wasn't expecting this to go on and on, but move every 2 weeks. Maybe get on Vallow or whatever website and just investigate a little bit.
I saw a cute little house for sale in Ashton's further from your work. So probably
40 minutes.
Probably Idaho Falls will be the best. That'd be your postal code. But isn't Rexburg like the place of safety when all things happen?
Yeah, but there's been lots of prophecies about major turmoil there. The plague's gonna sweep through Rexburg. Civil unrest. I had a vision of Second East where McDonald's is and everything. Just chaos, people starving, fighting. So there is still a stretch of bad time coming to Rexburg before City of Light. So we had to kind of pave the way, and we were told to flee.
Mostly because of it's because of agency, right? We were all told to go there and that was where we were supposed to stay. And because of the agency of the dark and because Lucifer is able to negotiate terms still to this day about eternal law, he's been allowed to do certain things that had to force us out with the police. We had no idea the police were infiltrated with such dark people in Rexburg itself proper. So we
Makes sense in retrospect, but you don't think that immediately that little Rexburg would be planted with Cain's translated followers, but that makes
it's
sense.
because of so many light multi-creations being there. And of course, the dark ones are there too. So opposition in all things. So we just feel like it's time to, just because of the situation, not be there for a season.
Yeah.
You don't have to go far. But just get out of their line of sight. For your own sanity. And for Ian to be able to go to work and feel like you're okay there by yourself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it just feels that way. It just feels kind of eerie when Ian's not there. I just don't want to be there by myself.
Right. I mean, you've done everything to decorate that place so cute, do everything so adorable, but
I'm just looking on Idaho Falls rentals on Trulia, and there's several that are just as good as your apartment there. Little houses, decent sized houses,
yeah, that was really,
for about the same price.
that's really cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go wherever. I'll live in a dumpster with Ian. He's so amazing, so.
But Idaho Falls is pretty good price in terms of rentals. Especially this time of year, you should be able to find a nice one.
Okay.
I hate to say that, but it's just pounding me that you need to get out of that city.
Okay.
You did great, babe. You did great with
Oh,
the
we
police.
love
I'm so proud of you.
so amazing. So
Yeah,
grateful for you.
he wanted to know, who I went to Arizona with. So I just thought, well, I drove with Ian and, yeah, I mean,
Remember, Chad's sister-in-law, Heather Daybell, testified just last week, and she said she was very concerned even years ago about the visions Chad claimed to have. She said he talked about earthquakes coming to Utah and described other catastrophic events. Now, this led to the Daybells moving to Rexburg, Idaho, and now you hear in that call that Chad sees chaos in Rexburg at some point, but he says this after the fact that police are now investigating him and his new wife, Lori. There was a handful of people following him, most of them here based in Arizona, specifically Zulema Pastenes, who testified on day 18, saying Chad told her she could even control the weather. Here's Zulema testifying about what she learned about multiple probations.
And Ms. Pastenes, I apologize, I cut you off there. I think you were starting to explain what we were seeing here. Can you please do so?
So Chad and Lori were teaching that in one realm of creations, there could be 5 different worlds to which one person could come to. So on this one, for example, it shows that there is one realm and one realm of creations on the left-hand side. And as you can see, it has 5 circles. So each one of those ones would be a world. And to the left, I have a arrow showing the spirit world. And one person could come to any of these worlds. And he had said that I had come to the 3rd world within this creation 5 times. To the 4th world, I had come 4 times. And to the 5th world, which will be the earth, which was also the lowest and the darkest of the worlds within this creation, that I had come to this earth 4 times.
And I also see a note there, Brother H.F. Jesus. Could you explain what that was?
Yeah, one time, Chad had said that he was the brother of Heavenly Father and Jesus, and that in another creation, he had been the Holy Ghost.
And I also see a circle there with the word limbo. Could you explain what that represents?
Later on, they started teaching that a person could become let me back up. When a person passes away, that there was a small time where the body is still a viable body, and it could be occupied by a dark spirit or a demon, and that because the body no longer had the spirit that was originally there, but it was being occupied by a demon, that then that spirit could not move to the spirit world, that it would go into a limbo.
So the original spirit occupying the body would go to limbo?
Correct.
And when you say they were teaching, who is the they?
Chad and Lori.
Had you ever heard anything taught like that before?
No.
At that time, were you open to the idea?
Somehow it was really different to me. I've never heard anything like that before. I was sort of open to it.
From spiritual beliefs to fact-based evidence in the murders of J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, on day 19, the jury got to hear about the autopsies done by Dr. Garth Warren, a forensic pathologist for the Ada County Coroner's Office. Disclaimer, this is hard to hear due to graphic details. J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan were both found buried in Debel's backyard in June of 2020, after missing since September of 2019. The conditions of their remains were different. Here's what Dr. Warren said about J.J. and Tylee's autopsies.
Yes, this is a close-up. Again, you can see the vast majority of the skin has this faint kind of green skin discoloration, and then there's a fairly large collection of linear and irregular light brown to dark brown to red scratch-like abrasions on the neck and angle of the jaw.
Why was that of note to you?
Well, in any case, and especially a case like this, you want to simply document every injury that you find. So that's important. Also, at least in my experience, they look like scratch-like abrasions. So it's important in this case, considering there's a white plastic bag over his head. Are these scratch-like abrasions from the individual putting the plastic bag over his head?
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. Calls for speculation.
Your Honor, I don't think he's speculating. He's talking about different methods by which those abrasions could occur.
It's overruled.
It could also be from JJ himself trying to get the bag off of his head. I wasn't there. I don't know. But these are the types of things that go through my head and the possibilities.
Thank you. And again, doctor, just because we had a bit of time between yesterday and today, based on your opinion, what was the cause of death of J.J. Vallow?
I determined the cause to be asphyxia by plastic bag over the head and duct tape covering the mouth.
I would just ask you again, based on your autopsy and your training and education, what was your opinion concerning the cause of death of Tylee Ryan?
I determined the cause of death to be homicide by unspecified means.
Thank you. And just for purposes of clarity, can you remind the jury the criteria for a homicide by unspecified means?
Yes. So as we talked about yesterday, there's guidelines and criteria to go over briefly, just to remind you. One, it has to be objectively suspicious findings. So some of the examples they give is that the body is hidden out of plain view, say in a trunk of a car or in the forest and covered by branches or buried in the ground. Another example is that evidence was concealed, right? So they were lit on fire, they were dismembered, bleach was poured on them, something of that nature. So for criteria number one, this case clearly falls into that, fitting both of those criteria. For number two, it's the autopsy doesn't show an obvious cause of death or a better explanation for the cause of death. And the two examples they give there is one, you have an intact body, you're able to examine it, look at all the organs, and you can't come up with the cause of death. The other example is that there's not enough of the body there for you to determine what the cause of death is. So Tylee would fit under that category. The third criteria is toxicology. That toxicology cannot explain why the decedent is dead. In this case, there was nothing in Tylee's toxicology where I felt I could explain her death. And then the fourth criteria is more based on history and some of the circumstances surrounding the death. the medical records. And we went over Tylee's medical records yesterday, and I didn't think there was a good explanation why otherwise young, healthy teenager would be dead. So those are the guidelines and the criteria I used to come to my conclusion.
Also on day 19, a Chandler police detective testified about Lori Vallow and the fatal shooting of her former husband, Charles Vallow. Now, the prosecution is bringing up Lori constantly through trial, but they want to make sure that they can relay information on her and link it back to Chad Daybell as someone investigators believe was well aware of all the crimes happening throughout this saga. We rewind to July 11th, 2019, when Charles and Lori's brother, Alex Cox, allegedly got into a fight, leading to Charles hitting Alex in the head with a baseball bat. The shooting happened in Lori's rental home in Chandler. It took about 45 minutes for Alex Cox to call 911. Early that morning, Charles was going to pick up JJ for school, and Lori left the scene in his car with both of her kids, JJ and Tylee, after the shooting. That happens around 7:50 in the morning. She didn't call 911 or do anything for that matter. Listen to this testimony about her locations and what police thought.
We pretty quickly noticed there's an issue of plausibility as far as the timeline. If the 911 call was received at 8:36, and if Lori returned to Four Peaks at 8:48, which is 12 minutes later, you notice you have to go about a little over a mile to go to the Burger King, and then 7 miles round trip to go to the Academy. Added in the claim that there was a stop at a drugstore, we began to become concerned about a delay in calling 911, which is ordinarily concerning. Ordinarily, if a shooting event happens, 911 is normally called relatively quickly.
And Lori also took Charles's phone. She had to give it back to Chandler PD to help with the investigation later that day. On day 20, back to some more graphic evidence, but keyword DNA. Forensic scientists took the stand to talk about JJ and Tylee, specifically 2 witnesses from Idaho State Police, and one of these witnesses tested 18 tools from Chad Daybell's property looking for blood or DNA. Remember, these tools sat on the Debel property from the time of the murders of JJ and Tylee in September of 2019 until the discovery of the children in June of 2020, and the test began to process about a month later. Catherine Dace with Idaho State Police, she locked in on a pickaxe that had some material that would end up matching a DNA profile for Tylee Ryan.
Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes, that is the pickaxe we just looked at.
The same pickaxe that's on the table in the courtroom.
Correct.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as 201L. And if you can describe for the jury what you see in this picture.
So on the leftmost side of the photo, there's what appeared to be dirt. That was the top surface of what I was examining. And so I removed it and put it off to the side. And then in the middle, what you see is that darker material that was embedded around the eye. And I also collected that separately and took a photo of it. And then ultimately I went back through it looking for anything I thought I could run for DNA.
And were you able to find anything that you could run for DNA in that?
I was.
You to look at State's Exhibit 201M. You recognize that image?
I do.
What is that?
That is a photograph of some stains on the handle that tested positive for blood.
Were those the 2 you pointed out to the jury?
They were.
And I'm going to go a little bit out of order. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's 201O. If you can tell the jury what you observed in this image and what you were doing.
So that is a photo of the tool once I removed that top layer of dirt, and I haven't removed the dark material from the eye. As you can see, it's all around the shaft, and it's a little hard to see because it's dark, but it's basically in between the metal and the shaft as well, and then it's adhered to the surface of it.
And now I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 201N. What is that?
That is a photograph of some of the larger pieces of material that I removed from that dark pile of debris from the eye.
I'll show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 201P. You recognize that picture?
I do.
And what does it represent?
It is a portion of what was in the previous photo. It was the largest piece of material I found.
What did you do with that?
The area in the blue box is the portion that I ran for DNA.
Were you able to obtain a DNA profile from that subject?
I did. I obtained a partial DNA profile.
And can you explain for the jury what a partial DNA profile is?
It means that at some of the locations we tested, we did not get results. That's very common in samples with a low level of DNA or samples that are degraded.
And when you say degraded, what could cause degradation?
Heat. So being subjected to a fire could cause that degradation.
And when you obtain a partial DNA profile, are you still able to do a comparative analysis against a known profile?
In this case, yes.
Okay. Is it accepted in the scientific community to do a comparative analysis with a partial profile?
Yes.
What were the, and in this case, did you do that comparative analysis?
I did.
What did you compare it against?
I compared it against the known reference samples I had in this case.
And can you just remind the jury what those known reference samples were?
At this time that I was doing this examination, I had a reference sample from Vallow, Tylee Ryan, Lori Vallow, and Chad Daybell.
And from your comparative analysis, did you come to any conclusions?
Yes, Tylee Ryan was a possible contributor to that partial DNA profile. It is at least 159 trillion times more likely to see this DNA profile if it originated from Tylee Ryan than if it originated from an unrelated, randomly selected individual from the general population.
Okay. And again, that's kind of, for lack of a better word, scientific speaking, just from a layman's perspective, how would you describe that?
So it means that all of the locations we tested where we had information, the peaks that were present were the same peaks that were present in Tylee Ryan's reference sample.
Thank you. If you could just read that into the record.
DNA profiles were provided for the following samples: S25, Lori Vallow, Debel, V23, Tylee Ryan, and 46, Melanie Gibb.
And if you'd read the next couple paragraphs there.
The partial DNA profile obtained from sample CCB 2235-0241-E-01 is consistent with a female contributor, female 1. This partial DNA profile matches the DNA profile provided by Lori Vallow Debel. The probability of randomly selecting an unrelated individual with this partial DNA profile is at least 1 in 71 billion in the US population.
I'm not going to ask you to read the rest of that. So this was, to your knowledge, a hair collected from black bags wrapped around Vallow?
Yes, it is given the item number 11.16.8B. That is the piece of tape labeled number 8 by our laboratory, and that was one of the hairs from that tape.
Okay, so from the tape on the black bags?
Yes,
Okay. And from your understanding of this report, they tested it against Tylee Ryan, Lori Vallow, and Melanie Gibb,
correct.
and it matched for Lori Vallow.
Yes, as a partial DNA profile.
So far, we have not heard about Chad's DNA being found on any of the evidence at this point. Now, we can't leave out day 21 because for the first time we heard from Jason Gwilliam, the brother-in-law of the late Tammy Daybell. He's married to Samantha Gwilliam, who testified in Lori Vallow's trial. Jason was close to Chad and remembers Chad becoming obsessed with the end times. He says Chad even wanted Jason and his family to move from Utah to Rexburg, Idaho, saying the area would be a refuge for people and there would be tent cities at some point, including one he planned to put on his property. Chad referred to Rexburg as the city of light, per Jason. When Tammy suddenly died, Jason even helped with funeral arrangements, but knew everything was happening just way too fast. Days after Tammy's death on October 19, 2019. Jason recalled how Chad told him he got married to a new woman, saying she was 5'6", 120 pounds, fit, and her husband had died of a heart attack. This was a lot for Jason to handle at this point, and just a little more than 2 weeks after Tammy died. But when Jason finds out about the disappearance of JJ and Tylee, he has a phone call with Chad and Lori, recorded in December of 2019, to help law enforcement. Here's a portion of this never-before-heard call.
I have people wanting to question and talk to me about you and what you got going on, and I'm like, okay, why? And so I thought I need to reach out and find out.
Speaker Lori's here, so let me just put that speaker.
Okay, sure.
So go ahead and state what is happening so she can hear.
I have people calling me from Rexburg saying, we want to bring you in for questioning and talk to you about what's been going on, and we're trying to find some kids. And what do you know about it? And I'm going, I don't know anything. What? Why? What? Okay, no, I don't know what's going on. And so
yesterday they actually went to Leah's house and tried to threaten her. We're not fully sure what they're trying to accomplish. It's mainly one detective in Rexburg.
Okay.
So finally we got a hold of an attorney, and that's pretty much where it goes from here. It's just
everything to your attorney and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, just we can text you his name and
yeah, probably should. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on. Well, we're trying to find two kids that along with Lori, and we just want to know if they're being, sheltered down in Utah. And I'm like, what? I don't have any idea what you're talking about. So is there kids that are not involved, or they're what are they talking about? So I'll have a clue if they show up at my house.
If they show up, you can just give them the attorney's name and say, we're not talking to you without an attorney.
Okay.
Because
No,
there,
well,
it's my sister-in-law. It's just a bunch of people that are starting trouble for no reason.
it's separate from the Tammy situation.
well,
They're trying to combine it all together.
well, do you want to send me that attorney's number? Do you want to text it to me, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can do that, that would be helpful, I'm sure.
They're just grasping at straws. I still feel Heather Daybell's behind it.
Okay.
She's an evil woman, and
It's her in-law that's this officer.
Detective Hope.
Who are you?
No, he didn't call me. It was another individual. And so, yeah, that's where I'm like, okay, this is getting a little bit weird here. And so I thought I'd reach out to you to find out, what's going on. And so.
Anyway. We pretty much blocked them. It's a simple situation, but we just can't tell you because then you'd have to be involved.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I get it. That's fine. So I'm like, I don't want, I don't need that. It's Christmas. So, that's where I'm just going, all right, that's interesting. So.
I
Okay.
Well, if you don't know anything, which
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
You don't know anything.
No, I don't know anything, and so that's good news at that point in time, so.
So,
It's Pittsburgh police who are being whatever.
yeah, they've
It's
gone,
Heather's in-law
right.
is this detective that's bugging everybody, so.
Yeah. They seem to think that there's stuff that's being hidden and that they're wanting to try to get to the bottom of what's being hidden. And I'm like, if you know, I don't know what you guys are talking about. It kind of catches you off guard when you have them call you up and start chatting with you. And you're going, okay, I don't know anything about this stuff here. And so, yeah.
This is a different issue that doesn't involve any Douglases.
Okay. Well, with that being the case, that's fine. I just thought of,
That you're being bothered.
no,
Or
that's
sorry,
fine.
being bothered.
And these are just some of the testimonies that stuck out to me. Again, around 60 witnesses have testified in the Chad Daybell trial, reaching the same mark of testimonies that happened in the Lori Vallow trial. We'll be live streaming the Daybell trial on Monday, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. I'll be providing live analysis through the day during breaks. Scan the QR code on your screen for more information, or simply just subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. Thanks for being here and listening. I'm Justin Lum for Fox 10 Phoenix.